When you think about the Baltimore Ravens and the roller coaster of emotions this team has brought fans through over the years, it's impossible not to start with John Harbaugh. The man has been at the helm for nearly 2 decades, and over that time, he's seen highs, lows, heartbreak, and moments of pure triumph. People speculate endlessly about his future, about what he might do next, about whether this season could finally be the breaking point. But the reality is, John Harbaugh has a love for this city and this organization that's hard to imagine him abandoning. The thought of him walking away to pursue a broadcasting career or some other front office position somewhere else just doesn't fit with what we've seen from him over the years. He's someone who thrives on building, on coaching, on leading a team that has a culture and an identity. Baltimore is more than just a city to Harbaugh, it's where he's carved out his legacy. Even if you look back at similar situations across the league, there have been coaches who made the jump from head coach to front office roles, and some have left for other opportunities entirely. You have examples in the NFL and basketball and other professional sports where a coach has shifted roles within the same organization, sometimes voluntarily, sometimes not. But Harbaugh, he's different. He's someone who seems invested in the Ravens beyond a paycheck or a career move. He's built a system here. He's built a reputation. He's built relationships with players, staff, and the fan base. It's not to say he's without flaws. He has made mistakes, and those mistakes have been magnified in the postseason, but there's a loyalty there that isn't easily broken. This season, in particular, has tested that loyalty in every conceivable way. Starting off 1-5, the Ravens faced an uphill battle from the very first whistle. There were questions about whether this team could claw its way back, whether the roster, the coaching, the execution could all align to salvage what many had started to write off as a lost year. And yet, week by week, play by play, the Ravens fought. Wins were hard-earned, often coming down to the smallest details and relying on teammates to step up when others fell short. The victory against Green Bay was a reminder of what Baltimore football is supposed to look like. Disciplined, tough, opportunistic, and relentless. But even that win doesn't erase the struggles. Doesn't erase the fact that the team had to rely on other games, other teams, to keep their playoff hopes alive. When we talk about John Harbaugh and his potential future with the Ravens, it's impossible not to consider the weight of expectations. Fans, analysts, even the front office are all measuring him against a standard that is as high as it is unforgiving. A single disappointing playoff exit, especially after a season filled with ups and downs, could redefine his tenure in a way that no one wants. The narrative isn't just about wins and losses, it's about timing, opportunity, and maximizing the potential of the roster he's been given, particularly with a talent like Lamar Jackson at quarterback. Jackson represents a unique chance for the franchise, a player whose skill set and leadership could define an era, and yet, with all of his abilities, the burden placed on him has been extraordinary. Injuries, inconsistencies on the offensive line, changes in coaching staff, and defensive shortcomings have all compounded, creating a situation where the team's performance sometimes overshadows individual brilliance. What makes this conversation even more fascinating is how the scrutiny on Lamar Jackson compares to other star quarterbacks across the league. While mistakes by other quarterbacks are often contextualized, blamed on dropped passes, offensive line issues, or poor play calling, Jackson frequently bears the brunt of criticism directly. When a pass is dropped by a receiver, when a defensive scheme fails, when opportunities are missed, somehow the narrative circles back to him as the central issue, and that's where Marcus Spears' commentary comes in, cutting through the noise and calling out the unfair treatment Jackson receives. Spears points out, accurately, that Jackson has carried this team through incredible highs and has been asked to do so under conditions that would challenge even the most seasoned players. From MVP seasons to carrying the offense while key players were sidelined, Jackson has consistently proven his value. Yet, one rough season or a handful of mistakes suddenly turns the conversation into questioning his entire career, his work ethic, and his commitment. The conversation about Harbaugh's future cannot be separated from the reality of Jackson's situation. If the Ravens fail to capitalize on the window they have with Lamar at the helm, if the postseason continues to deliver disappointing exits, then discussions about coaching changes become inevitable. But even then, there's a nuance. Harbaugh isn't just a coach. He's a strategic mind, a builder, a Super Bowl winning coach with a proven track record. He has faults, sure, recurring ones that have cost the Ravens in critical moments. But he also brings stability, knowledge, and leadership that few others could replicate immediately. So when you consider whether he should stay, leave, or transition, it isn't a simple yes or no. It's about weighing legacy, opportunity, and the expectations of a fan base that has grown used to both triumph and heartbreak. In equal measure, this season, the Ravens have already defied expectations, clawing back from the early losses and showing that they are capable of competing at the highest levels. But there's a tension in the air, the question of how far they can go, whether the flaws that have haunted them will finally be exposed, and what the outcome means for Harbaugh's legacy. Playoff wins are rare, hard-earned, and each failure magnifies the scrutiny. The fan base, the front office, and even commentators are all evaluating each play, each decision, and each outcome with an intensity that reflects the stakes. And through it all, Jackson remains the player the team relies on. A quarterback who carries a unique responsibility and who continues to be unfairly judged for the failures that aren't solely his. Looking at the broader context of the NFL, it's easy to see parallels in other franchises, where star quarterbacks receive a mixture of praise and criticism depending on circumstances. But Jackson's situation is particularly charged because of the combination of expectations, past successes, and the pressure to deliver a Super Bowl during a career that has already shown glimpses of brilliance. Every decision by Harbaugh, every adjustment in strategy, every change in personnel has a direct impact on how the season unfolds and ultimately how history will remember him. If the Ravens fail to win it all this season, questions about whether Harbaugh maximized the Lamar Jackson era will dominate the conversation, overshadowing earlier accomplishments and shaping the legacy of one of the most influential figures in the franchise's history. Even amidst all of this, there's hope. The team has shown resilience. They have talent. And if everything clicks, the right plays, the right execution, and a bit of luck, they can still make a deep playoff run. That's the beauty of football. Nothing is predetermined, and each week presents an opportunity to redefine narratives. For Harbaugh, Jackson, and the Ravens, the story is still being written. The pressure is immense, the expectations sky high, but the potential remains extraordinary. Fans can only watch, analyze, debate, and hope that the culmination of strategy, skill, and heart will deliver the outcome everyone desires. In the meantime, the discussions about coaching, quarterback decisions, and the future of this team will continue, fueled by each game, each play, and each moment where triumph or heartbreak could be just one decision away. As we continue breaking down the Ravens season and what it means for both John Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson, it's impossible not to dive into the intensity of the debates surrounding the quarterback and how much pressure is placed on him every single week. Marcus Spears' comments about Lamar Jackson really cut to the core of a problem that has plagued this team for years: the tendency to place blame on one individual while ignoring the larger structural issues. Jackson has been asked to perform miracles under less than ideal conditions, and yet when the offense struggles, when the line fails to protect, when the running game stalls, the finger inevitably points back at him. That's the narrative that has become so difficult to shake, and it's one that fuels conversations among fans, analysts, and critics alike. Spears' defense of Jackson highlights a truth that many people overlook: this team's successes over the last 5 years, the playoff appearances, the offensive dominance, the MVP seasons, have all been built around him. The fact that some fans and pundits suddenly question his abilities over a single down season speaks more about perception than reality. In talking about the Ravens' performance this season, it's important to recognize just how much adversity they've faced. Injuries have piled up, the offensive line has struggled at key moments, and the team has had to adjust to multiple coordinators and shifting schemes. And yet, despite all of that, they've continued to compete. The win against Green Bay wasn't just a win, it was a statement that this team, even under pressure, can execute at a high level. But at the same time, the playoffs are unforgiving. One loss, one poorly timed mistake, and the narrative can shift in an instant. That's why every decision, every adjustment, and every play matters. Harbaugh's coaching decisions are scrutinized more than ever, partly because of his history, partly because of the talent on the roster, and partly because of the weight of expectations. Fans and analysts aren't just looking for a good season, they're looking for a deep playoff run, for a Super Bowl, for validation that all the hard work, all the talent, and all the effort has been maximized. Lamar Jackson's role in all of this cannot be overstated. He is the centerpiece of the offense, the engine that drives the team, and the player whose performance often dictates the outcome of every game. Yet, the unfair criticism he receives makes his job exponentially harder. Drops by receivers, missed assignments, defensive breakdowns, these are factors that affect every quarterback in the league. Yet somehow Jackson becomes the lightning rod for frustration. Spears' passionate defense makes it clear that this narrative needs to change. Jackson's contributions, his leadership, his skill, and his ability to carry this team through challenging situations are unparalleled in recent Ravens history. The argument isn't that he's perfect, every quarterback makes mistakes, but that the system, the coaching, and the surrounding personnel play just as much a role in the outcomes as any individual performance. And when the discussion centers on whether Harbaugh should remain head coach, Jackson's presence becomes a crucial factor. The relationship between coach and quarterback is symbiotic, and the decisions made by one inevitably affect the other. If we look at the trajectory of the Ravens, the seasons under Jackson have been a mix of brilliance and frustration. Early on, his ability to electrify games and dominate opposing defenses brought hope and excitement to Baltimore, but as seasons progressed, injuries, inconsistent personnel, and missed opportunities have created a narrative of almost but not quite. Playoff exits have been particularly painful, reminding fans that regular season success does not always translate into championship glory. For Harbaugh, this creates a high-stakes situation. His legacy is tied not only to the wins and losses, but to how effectively he leverages the talent at his disposal. The question that continues to hang over the organization is simple yet profound. Has he maximized the Lamar Jackson era? If the answer is no, what does that mean for his future? And if the answer is yes, what lessons can be learned to ensure sustained success? The discussion about coaching changes isn't hypothetical. It's grounded in the reality of professional sports, where decisions are driven by results and expectations. Harbaugh has been one of the most successful coaches in Ravens history. Yet even the most accomplished leaders face scrutiny when the team falls short of ultimate goals. The front office, the ownership, and the fan base are all stakeholders in this narrative, each with their own perspectives and levels of tolerance for disappointment. If the season ends in another early playoff exit, it will force conversations about accountability, coaching philosophy, roster construction, and strategy. Even with all of Jackson's talent, the coach's decisions will be front and center. Every formation, every call, every adjustment will be dissected. And that's why this season is pivotal, not just for the Ravens' chances in the playoffs, but for defining Harbaugh's legacy and shaping the future of the franchise. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support keeps us bringing you the latest news on the Baltimore Ravens. And hey, drop your take in the comments below. We want to hear from the flock in a move that has sent shockwaves through the NFL. Sources are reporting that the Baltimore Ravens have made what could be the most surprising acquisitions of the season, signing not one, but two high-profile stars. While the team has yet to release an official statement, ESPN insiders are confirming that both players have put pen to paper, sending fans and pundits alike into a frenzy over what this could mean for the Ravens' future. Details on the identities of these players remain closely guarded, but speculation is already running wild. Rumors suggest that the team's front office has been quietly maneuvering behind the scenes for months, working tirelessly to bring top-tier talent into the Baltimore fold. Analysts are already debating how these additions could transform the team's offensive and defensive strategies, with some suggesting that the Ravens might now be in a position to contend at an entirely different level. The timing of the signings has fueled further intrigue. Sources indicate that negotiations were intense, with both players reportedly weighing multiple offers from across the league. Their decision to commit to Baltimore, however, seems to reflect a growing confidence in the team's vision and long-term prospects. Fans have taken to social media to express their excitement, flooding forums and comment sections with predictions about how these new stars might fit into the roster and whether their presence could shift the balance of power in the conference. Historically, the Ravens have been known for strategic, calculated moves rather than headline-grabbing free agent splashes. This double signing represents a bold departure from that trend, prompting speculation about what the organization might be planning for the upcoming season. Could this be the beginning of a complete roster overhaul, or a targeted attempt to shore up critical positions? Only time will tell. But the buzz surrounding Baltimore has reached a fever pitch, with insiders suggesting that more moves could be on the horizon. As the NFL world digests this Breaking news. All eyes will be on Baltimore to see how the Ravens integrate their two new stars. Will chemistry develop quickly enough to justify the hype? Or will the pressure of expectations prove to great, whatever the outcome? One thing is certain, the Ravens have just positioned themselves at the center of the league's rumor mill, and the story is far from over. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay in the loop with exclusive news on our Baltimore Ravens, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what the flock thinks. Drop your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next one.